My name is Sarah Grimwood, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the Commission table and plans will be projected through the TV monitor. If you're presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it's time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the Commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of any commissioners attending virtually and the current petitioner. Once the Commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties,
Can't hear what you're saying.
In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will be automatically continued to the August 6th meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves.
Jim Smith. Bill Kameza.
Gary Kleiman.
Thank you very much. Okay, as always, we will open the meeting with any public comments. Public comment is limited to up to 10 minutes, with no more than 2 minutes allocated to any one speaker. Public comment is limited to items that are not on the agenda. Is anybody raising their hand? I doubt it. No.
Oh,
Okay.
funny.
Comment, want me to come up here?
Is it about Warner's Pond Task Force or something else?
No, it's about the pond, but it's not about the task force. Task force is done, so I have other questions about it.
I think that's part of the agenda.
I do too. I think
Yeah.
I should wait till we're on
That's
the
right.
pod. You should look at the agenda. The agenda.
Agenda right here.
We'll be talking about the Warner's Pond.
And I'm not-
We'll be
There was
talking
a-
about the recommendations of the.
We're gonna have discussion after
Yeah.
that section?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm happy to wait for that.
Great.
Great, thank you.
Is
Anybody
that-
else? No.
Oh, but at the end?
Okay, do the commissioners have any general comments for tonight? No.
Done.
Delia, over to you for directors.
Hey, whoa.
Excuse me. Could you be quiet, please? We have a lot of business to get through.
Copies of the agenda here?
Yeah, you can have this one.
There's copies up there
Here,
on the
here,
table.
just take that one. I got one on.
Yeah.
Delia, the director's update, please.
Yes, so I am very pleased to, I think I emailed you and you were aware, but just to sort of publicly state, the Assistant Natural Resources Director position
Yes.
has been reinstated, and so we have, yes, we're very relieved, and it has been posted, and we are receiving applications, and so we'll start interviewing and hope to get some good candidates.
Great,
But it
And
leaves big
so-
shoes to fill.
yeah. So no updates on the ranger?
None,
No, okay,
No.
but I think Robert's position is the more important one, right?
right? Well,
Or
and
more critical.
you know, the Ranger program was not funded in this fiscal year,
Oh,
in
okay.
fiscal 26. So,
Yeah. that
so
makes sense.
hopefully it will be refunded in FY 27.
Yeah.
And when is Will coming back? End of August, September?
Beginning of September. Mhm. There is a new bill that is in the legislature. It's open to public comment. It's called the Mass Ready Act. It incorporates environmental housing and infrastructure. And it has a lot of benefits, including streamlining ecological restoration permitting, as well as housing, development, culvert replaced with permitting. So there's a lot of good things about this, but there are some changes to the Wetlands Protection Act that some of us are feeling are maybe need to be thought through a little bit. A good thing about one of the changes is that climate resilience is being added as a ninth interest of the act. But a few other things that I think we just need to understand a little bit better. Appeals are going to go directly to Superior Court instead of being adjudicated by DEP. And usually what happens is if the commission issues a decision and it's appealed, it goes to DEP in a two-step process. It can be secondarily appealed again, it goes to adjudicatory. But they have counsel and they have environmental experts that I don't know that you would necessarily have at Superior Court. So that just needs a little bit more understanding. And then there's a provision in the act, or in the act that eliminates local bylaw jurisdiction for culvert replacements, and I'm not clear on why that is. And I think it's a bit of a slippery slope to say the bylaw doesn't apply here, and it, it seems a little
The wetlands bylaw, or what bylaw?
our local
Local.
wetlands bylaw. So any local community's bylaw wouldn't apply for culvert replacement projects, and I don't know why,
Oh, yeah.
and
It's not like there's, anyway.
right, I think you do want to sort of keep that local expertise in there, but so that is, I believe that is it for me. For the moment, as I said, it's in committee right now, and so if anybody is interested in reading the act, I think I sent it around in a MACC email earlier today. There's a lunch and learn on it tomorrow for the MACC. And anybody, of course, is welcome to provide comment. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Did you want to talk about this or not?
Yes, I did. I didn't have it on my list. Finally, thank you. We did, with Oars and the Concord Land Conservation Trust, did a morning of water chestnut pulling, in the Sudbury River. And so there was a before picture. This is an after picture, and you can see that there's some progress that's being made. There's obviously still a lot. I think we need a lot more, days out there. But there was, I would say, close to 30 people that participated. We got boats from Southbridge Boathouse. They donated the boats, the life jackets, the oars, which was very generous. It's obviously, this is a, problem for the boathouse. So they are, very happy to have that partnership as well. So,
Where did you deposit all the stuff?
yeah, so some of it came out behind, like where we're sitting. This channel actually leads to a residence, and he allowed us to dump it above the water line on his property. It dewaters. After a week, it gets quite small. And it can be composted, but they do have those sharp nuts.
Yeah.
And then there was another property on Coolidge Road
Uh-huh.
that, but the main idea was that we would bring it to the boathouse. And she has Bree put down a tarp for us to dewater it, and then my crew will take it to the landfill,
Wow.
to the composting facility once it's
Sure. Sure.
dewatered. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
And was this a public event that was advertised?
It was advertised through Oars.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, because I don't think I sent it out to this
No,
group.
I may have missed it, but
And I didn't see.
There is, the Land Trust is hosting another a week from today,
Oh,
further upstream on the Sudbury and Canantum.
oh, okay.
So I'll send that link
If you
around.
could send that,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. So that was the end.
That was the end.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, we have one NOI to be continued to August 6th without discussion. Can I have?
So
a
I move
motion?
that we continue the notice of intent for the Mass Port Authority at 777 Virginia Road, DEP file 1371699, to be continued to our August 6, 2025 meeting.
Second.
And the vote, Bill,
aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Larry,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Thank you. And we have two close and issue decisions.
So we just move to close and then.
Yeah, are they?
Yeah, we've
Alright.
discussed these
we don't
already,
need to
so.
discuss anymore?
No, so the first one, the Nurse Neck Hill Association is for vegetation
Yeah.
management, pond management.
Last meeting.
And yes, and then the Mill Dam Square condominium is the repaving and stormwater improvements of the parking lot down the street here.
All right, so why don't I move
Yep.
that we close and issue the special conditions on 18A College Road, DEP file 137-1690 with findings A, B, and C, and standard conditions 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 39.
Second.
Thank you.
Jim,
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. And the second one, please.
Yeah, so I move that we close and issue a decision on DEP file 1371715 at 100 Kais Road with findings A, B, and C, standard conditions 1 through 20, and special conditions 21 through 51.
Second.
Thank you. And the vote.
Aye.
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 And I'm an aye as well. Oh,
Okay,
and we have
COC.
certificates of compliance.
There are actually two, so the Balls Hill Road, is not ready. The house is still under construction. There's stockpiles everywhere, so that we will, push that off to another meeting. 115 Williams Road was for the construction of a new garage, and that has been constructed. It was built by a prior owner, and then I think there was some almost sort of going into foreclosure. The current owner purchased it, but the COC was, no, it was never closed. And they didn't do their mitigation. They were supposed to plant 30 blueberry shrubs. I didn't feel like it was necessarily fair to put that burden on the current homeowner but she did, I mentioned it to her and she did agree to, there's an area that she's looking to revegetate, and she's willing to plant, native shrubs. And so I would recommend that it could go forward to be closed without having that requirement, since it wasn't her
Well,
responsibility.
usually these need to be closed
Right
before
before sale. How did that happen?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it
Yeah.
was something with the bank. I'm
Because it's
surprised.
foreclosure fees or whatever.
Yep,
yeah.
it did not come up in her
Hmm.
closing documents.
So,
Is there
Would
anything we
you
need to?
follow up with the town? Or like who?
It's the banks and the
It's the
attorneys.
So they should have had something registered.
So there's an order recorded at the registry
Oh,
and.
it's there.
Mhm,
And whoever did the title search.
Correct,
Okay.
right. It's very unusual.
Mhm.
That's always something that's flagged by the, the buyer's attorney. But there may have just been, because I shouldn't say it was quite in foreclosure, but there was something.
Right, right.
Okay.
But, well, it
No.
sounds like it's all gonna work out okay,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I think the only thing is that it's not going to have the hook of having an open order of conditions, because
Got it.
I'm recommending
Right,
it just get
right.
recorded and closed.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah,
hopefully
makes sense.
that
That
was
sounds
just a
fine.
one-off, but if it happens again, we'll have to.
But I mean, the
Yeah.
garage was constructed per the.
it was
Plan.
actually further from wetlands. we
Oh,
planned.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so that
Mhm,
seems fun.
mhm,
And, especially if she's amenable to doing some landscaping anyway with
she
natives,
is, yes.
that's great.
Yep.
So,
And you had another one, you said, there was two?
So that was 115 Williams Road.
Right.
Granahan, I did not get an opportunity to go see.
Okay,
And then Cowloff was for an addition and a patio and some landscaping, and that looks tip top, ready to go with that.
so it's just two then, the
Correct.
Williams Road and the Park Lane.
it sounds like they're separate just because the one's being amended in a sense, right?
You could, I think you could do them together because it's not really an amendment. It's just, I think a release of,
Okay, I move that we issue certificates of compliance with respect to DEP file 1371292 at 115 Williams Road. And DEP file 137-1595 at 228 Park Lane.
second,
Thanks, and the vote, Bill.
Aye.
Jim,
I,
thanks, and I'm an aye as well.
That-
Okay, and we now move on to the Warner's Pond Task Force discussion. That was very efficient.
Yeah.
do you wanna just quickly, do you wanna just do this administrative approval so we don't?
Oh, yes.
Come up anyway,
that's-
just come on up anyway, let's get.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is a very rotten tree, it's within the 25-foot no disturb zone. It's close to the house, it has severe base rot, and, it's very wooded. I didn't see any issues with needed to
Okay.
replant, but, certainly they should take that tree down.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Great.
okay,
Okay,
Mhm.
so are you both presenting?
Well, Chris is presenting and then I may join in, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
So we have the.
Yes,
And what I'd like to propose is that you present, the
Okay.
commission should ask just clarifying questions, I think, as we go through. And then we can go into a deeper discussion and we'll invite public comment at the very end of our deliberations. Okay,
Sounds good. All right, so I am Christine Venaro, 189 Commonwealth Avenue. And, as you all know, this is, we're presenting the Warner's Pond Adaptive Management Plan. I know that you've all had a chance to, read through it. So really, this is just, highlighting just some of the features of it. As you know, Bill and I are the co-chairs of the Warner's Pond Task Force. And that is a picture of Warner's Pond. Okay, next slide. Are you doing that, Delia?
Mhm. And for some reason, my computer's a little slow. I am on the next slide and it's just.
Okay. So I thought I'd throw in some pictures of the dam, wildlife recreation. So the first picture on the top left is an overview of the pond in the wintertime where we've gone skating. The next one over on the top is, there's people fishing from their boats. The next one over to the right is a picture of the actual dam, downstream of the dam. And then circling around to the bottom right is a picture of a blue heron with an eel. Then the middle picture is a beautiful view on a temporary bench over at Giroux overlooking Warner's Pond. And the last picture is another picture of the dam with a ton of Canadian geese and a blue heron looking on. Okay,
Oops, I'm going the wrong way now, sorry.
Wrong way.
oh,
I know.
It's-
and then
Give it a
Oh,
minute.
okay, I forgot.
that's all right, that's a nice
The
picture.
delay.
Okay, and this picture is so that you can see what the spillway is. So this is, if you're looking at the dam from downstream, this is to the left. And so the picture on the left-hand side is the middle island with the spillway to the left. And then, so now the picture on the right shows, just a more complete picture of the spillway, so you can get a sense of what the whole dam looks like. While we're waiting, I just want to say thank you for inviting us, allowing us to make this presentation tonight. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Yeah.
So how did we get here? So we've been, this has kind of been, we've been talking about this since the 1990s. The dam was reconstructed in 2008. There were management reports and other reports, et cetera, done. We were focused on dredging, and then we reached a point where we were gonna have dam removal. The community was concerned, so we created the task force. And now here we are in 2025. The task force has come up with an adaptive management plan. This is what we're presenting to you, what you've read. So it's, the plan itself is basically it's gonna be clear and specific goals with metrics and performance targets. Okay, looking at various things such as water quality, recreation, the aquatic invasive species. And it's an adaptive methodology, which really just means it's ever changing. We're gonna adapt to what's working, what's not working. So it's a very systematic approach to the implementation. We'll measure and evaluate against the metrics. We'll modify, eliminate, change, replace, whatever, based on the performance against our metrics. And so therefore, it's an ongoing process. We'll provide reports, updates, every year at a minimum. And there's accountability. We'll have a clearly defined budget proposed to and then approved by the NRC, by you guys. And so we're looking at a 5-year implementation timeline, basically ending on 2032, whichever comes first, 2032 or 5 years. And we will, test and evaluate different management approaches, the progress, and we'll continuously refine the plan. At the end of this time, we'll have a comprehensive reevaluation, and we'll have a decision-making process to understand and determine if the plan that we have proposed, have we achieved its goals? And we'll look at that, as I said, at the end of the 5-year period or 2032, whichever comes first. We put the end date on it because we didn't know if we could start right away. We didn't know when the commission would start. And therefore, we were struggling with what's our start date. So we figured it would be safe to at least put an end date on that. And so, we'd like to clearly implement the sooner the better. And also if some sort of significant investment is required, requested, makes sense, that we'll look at that at the end of the 5-year period as well to see, okay, how's everything going with the pond? Does it make sense now to make these, larger investments in the pond?
And Chris, that may happen before the 5 years.
Right.
So in other words, if all of a sudden there was a real pressure for us to add a fish passage because the herring are coming up the river, we'd have to go through a pretty elaborate evaluation of the pond, how it's doing, et cetera, before we would recommend that to the commission.
Right. Okay, and then assuming that the plan is successful, then we will continue. We'll continue to reevaluate, make decisions on the process and really every 2 years. And continue with the accountability of the performance targets. So now we need a management committee. This committee would be a subcommittee to the NRC. We would report and make recommendations to the NRC on an annual basis. There would be a clearly defined mission. And basically, this is what we've talked about through the task force, through now as well, is to improve the ecological health and recreational benefits, or the recreational capacity of the pond. And that process, we want to continue to guide that using Envision Concord. I mean, our decision was based on the community criteria in that, that the town is using, as you all know. This committee would also monitor the pond and experiment with various methods. The plan is to reduce, the invasives, enhance the environment for the wildlife, and continue to improve the recreational potential for the community, and create opportunities for the wider community involvement, for people to enjoy it, for the scouts to help, all of that. Okay. We think that 5 to 7 committee members would be a good number. They would represent the NRC, the Recreation Commission, and other groups or residents who have a specific interest and or expertise in this area. We do feel it's really important to have people on this committee who are interested and want to help and improve the pond. We feel that's a very important factor for this. And we'll have a fixed or an appropriate term. It's, we have a 5-year time limit here, but we also think it's important to stagger some of the membership so that after 5 years, we don't want everyone leaving. So we want to stagger it a little bit, maybe have somebody who's on for 2 or 3 years. And we're looking for external support from a pond management company. We need a consultant to help us, put together what we need to do. We're looking at a third-party evaluator to help us develop, our goals and metrics that make sure that they're realistic and make sense. Also, we're thinking that they should meet, probably every month, a sufficient frequency, probably every month. And then we would like to have either annual or biannual larger meetings, with the community, to share progress and listen to community concerns, hear some feedback. And we were looking also for efforts to leverage community involvement, continue with volunteers for chestnut poles. That's been done over the past 2 or 3 years, just by volunteers coming together to do that. The scouts are interested in participating more. They have a vested interest in it. I mean, they participate on Scout Island. Plus they can also earn badges by helping out, so that would be a nice thing for them as well. So what is the process to form this committee? Well, first of all, we're making this proposal to the NRC, okay? And then we ask that you prepare a mission statement, which is based on the plan, which basically is sort of already done. And we would ask that you would appoint the chair and the membership. And then once the committee is formed, I think the first thing that needs to be done is to clarify what funds are currently available from CPC, so that they can be used, right away to get this commission going and up on the road. If I'm not mistaken, Delia, there's probably approximately $200,000 that is currently
Mhm.
allocated to the Warner's Pond restoration, so that
Could
might be
give more than
something.
that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That we could use right away, that would be helpful. So then the committee with funds available, they would look to, have a RFP prepared for, a pond consultant. And we understand that that's something that the NRC and or the NRD would have to put together for us. Next page.
Sorry.
Then once the committee receives approval to hire the pond management consultant, then we start working with them. To have them recommend measurements to create a baseline to that, so that we can assess our progress going forward. And clearly, we need to report these measurements to the NRC. Okay, and then the committee needs to actually lay out the first year plan. And then also create a 5-year plan. All of these are really flexible. I mean, they're based on what we think, but as I said, everything's dynamic and adaptive, and it depends on if something works, we stay with it. If it's not working, we're gonna change and move to another methodology. All this will be shared with the NRC and the NRD. And then we would implement the first year plan. And the other thing we need to look at is the additional funds. I'm not sure if we need to apply for additional CPC funds for the 5-year plan. We need to figure out what's going on with the funds that were allocated towards Warner's Pond dredging. That I'm not quite sure how we need to work that out. And then manage the plan moving forward. And this last picture actually was, my husband and I were out on the pond on, the 4th of July weekend. And, I took this picture, and you can actually see the moon in there as well. So it's a beautiful day.
There it is.
So, but thank you very much for listening. We
Mhm.
appreciate it, and now we're love to hear your questions and comments.
Thank you. So
Yeah,
maybe,
thanks.
maybe I'll start us off. I want to specifically make a point of thanking everybody involved in the task force. I'm going to read out everybody's name because everybody played. I don't know. I know it's in your report. I can't remember how many hours of meetings you had, but it was
There's a lot.
a lot. I either attended or listened to nearly all of them, and that was a lot of hours, even without being on the subcommittees and such like. So it was a lot. So I want to acknowledge Bill, Christine, Vicky, Paul, Malcolm, Jeff, Keith, Mark, Elizabeth, David, Sven, Delia, and Bruce. Delia, oh, I've written Delia twice. Jeff and is it Samiska?
Amisha, Sammy.
Sammy.
Sammy, okay, because it really was a huge effort, so thank you for that. And I'll start off the discussion just to kind of set so that we know what we're talking about here. This is a great plan you put together. Thank you for your efforts. Unfortunately, we're not actually able to give you everything that you're asking for because yes, we could have an NRC subcommittee, and we should talk about that. But the language in your report is very much an independent committee. You would we never allow, or the town never allows committees to have their own budget. So any, as you said, when you were talking, any, use of funds for a consultant or such, like, as you said, would have to be working with NRD, and everything would have to be approved by the commission.
Right.
And as far as I understand, the CPA funds, again, that would all be done through, if you're to use them, that would be through them. Any application to CPA fund would have to be done with NRC and NRD. So I was just very conscious of this word independent all the way through your report, and
It says independent? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't.
when it says you would manage your budget, and that's.
Well, it just meant that once it was set by the,
Right.
truth is, we just
Okay.
wanted to take the burden off as much as possible.
Right, understood.
But that's,
Okay.
no, I don't think it's gonna be an issue at all.
Okay. I want to hear from everybody else, but I think adaptive management plan does make sense, but I'm not comfortable with committing to more than a year to start with, because there's obviously a lot to work out, and that can be worked out in the first year, because frankly, I don't actually see much in the recommendations that hasn't been going on already. I mean, I look forward to you fleshing out various ideas and see what that looks like. But I worry that if we commit to a long period of time, that kind of sets us in stone for, I know you say you're going to be flexible. But there's a lot of things coming up, as you say in your report, like the
Let me ask you a question
Mhm.
about the year.
Mhm.
What harm is there in taking the 5 years? There's nothing catastrophic going on in the pond. It's slowly going through eutrophication. And it gives a chance for us to explore, or for the committee to explore, different methodologies. 1 year, for example, we've been basing a lot of this on some of the results at Bear Hill Pond in Harvard. They'll tell you, you can't tell within a year.
I'm not
What-
saying it has to stop after a year. I'm suggesting that we approve for a year and then see what your actual clear, detailed recommendations are, because they're not clear to me from the report.
Hmm.
But I open up for,
I mean, I have no problem with 5 years potentially. What I have a problem with is locking in for 8 years. I mean, we're talking about 2032. And let me just say,
Yeah, sure.
my concern is that, let's say conditions do change, maybe things get better, and that would be great, and then we could keep going for 5, 6, 7, 10 years if things
Right.
keep. What if things get far, far worse in 2 years? And then we've locked into some artificial date or something.
You have
You
to
know-
trust in a certain sense. The reason why you need 5 years, from all I can see, is you need a chance to try out different methodologies. If you come back in a year and we say, look, these things haven't worked, you could easily say, no, we can't, it isn't working.
right.
But if you give us a couple of years to work on it, and again.
I
it isn't
think
like
we're
there's a
jumping
catastrophic-
ahead in the
it isn't
discussion, because
catastrophic.
what I was gonna start with
Yeah.
is, first of all, echoing your comments. I super appreciate and thank the task force
Yeah.
for everything they've done. I actually like the recommendations also. I think a subcommittee is an appropriate step.
Hmm.
And I think that an adaptive management strategy is an appropriate step. I have concerns about locking into a specific timeframe,
Yeah.
but I think that if you can put up the first slide on the adaptive
Yeah, that's
management
all.
plan,
Okay.
go
go ahead.
back.
That one?
I agree with everything on this slide. And I was sitting here asking myself very much the same question Sarah said, what's new here? This is what we've been doing for 20 years. And I realized that it's that first bullet on adaptive methodology. Measure, evaluate against agreed upon metrics. That's new. To me, that is different. And that's why I think this is a good plan.
Yeah,
We should have if we have some actual metrics that we can track over time,
right.
starting with a year, starting with 2 years, let's see what happens. I think that this is a good plan. So where I get nervous is when you say, we absolutely don't do anything till 2032. I understand you're talking about adapting, you're maybe changing strategies or whatever. We're in the middle of a lot of changes with MCI going on, with
Yeah, the reason why that was put in too, just
Yeah.
to give you a background, some context. We didn't have it in, we didn't have a date.
No, we didn't.
We put the
Hmm.
date in because there were members of the committee who were afraid that we would never have an end date to measure us against. In other words, it was almost to hold our feet to the fire rather than to say, because originally we just said we wanted a 5-year plan because we thought that was normal for a lot of, for what I see in terms of pond maintenance of places other than like Bear Hill Pond. They lay out a plan for a few years, they try different methodologies, they try to make it happen. We put those dates in because some members of the committee who were in favor of dam removal really thought that we were giving ourselves too long of a runway.
Yeah.
And so we put it there to stop the runway. That's why we put it there, not to
But in
extend
the
it too
first
far.
year, you can put together what that plan would be.
But we won't be
Right.
implementing it. Not likely. I mean, maybe we will.
Well, you can start measuring dissolved oxygen and, I mean, I'm sure there are some measurements you can start pretty quickly.
That's the other thing I really appreciated about the plan, not to cut you off, but
Mhm.
you know, you did list a bunch of good metrics. They would be great to start measuring.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I feel like we could get a subcommittee right away
Mhm.
that could decide which of those metrics that, you know, you've already spent a year looking at different ways of measuring physical characteristics. So I would think you could, you know, very quickly go back to your committee work, your task force work, and the committee could select a couple of things that are cost effective and feasible to start measuring on a monthly basis. And maybe organize some volunteers to start doing those measurements or using funds, you know, that may be available through the CPC funding to have a consultant start doing routine physical measurements. That makes a lot of sense to me. Like, let's get that started right away.
I wonder if there's a compromise. I'm not quite sure I understand still why the worry about 5 years. For us, it seemed like a reasonable period of time to allow the committee to get their feet on the ground, to bring in a pond management consultant from the outside, to try some different methodologies to see if they work, and to experiment with that for a while to see what's working, what's not working. Very unlikely that'll happen within a year, because we have to get CPC funding, so
Yeah,
I don't see
and
why.
there's also, I don't think we're advocating that it's only a
It's
year.
We're just saying, at the moment, the plan is not clear exactly what you're gonna do,
Yeah.
so in the
That's the whole
first,
point.
it's, if anything, it's helping you we're putting some pressure on you to put together a very clear plan of what you want to measure, how you're gonna go about it, such like.
But what you probably,
What we presented in that is that we wanted to put together a plan for the first year.
Yep,
You know, hire a pond management company,
Yep.
consultant to help us put together the first year. Then once we've laid that out and you've approved it, then we say, okay, we're gonna take a look at 5 years so that we have a first year and plan out what we're gonna be doing over the next couple of years. Not that
so
they're,
you can still do that, but I guess what we're saying is,
I'm not sure why it would take a whole
if,
year or a consultant
No.
to put together your first adaptive management plan, because you've already
no,
spent
but
a year
but
looking
no,
at
there's
various.
issues, there's issues in this. For
Yeah.
example, there's questions about whether a drawdown is even possible in parts of the pond. We have to
Right,
figure out whether that's really reasonable. There's questions about diver assisted, if we ever wanted to use that, diver assisted suctioning, whether that's a possibility or how is it too expensive? So there's lots of things we'd have to.
But
we'd
it
have to
seems to me
think
you looked at some of those
Yes,
issues
yes,
during the
looked at
course
some
of
of
the
them,
task force.
But not with, but we were always working in a task force that had a built-in tension
Mm.
between those who are advocating, rightly so, and in good faith, to have the dam removed, and those who are advocating for dredging, and those who are advocating, so there was always a tension. We didn't go into the in-depth analysis that you need to have and really looking at whether these things can be worked out
well,
here.
so let's look at it this way then, we're giving you another year to do that detailed analysis and assuming it all makes sense, then of course.
So,
we'll-
year by
It's
year,
not- Yeah, I mean,
if you were just to say, we would create the task force, or the not task force, but this committee, and not put any date on it, that would be fine. But you're saying you want to give it limited at a year?
no,
No.
Oh, so you're not
we've
saying
never
that.
said that.
No, we've
it
never said
it is
that.
confusing the way you're
Okay,
saying.
and
it.
let me-
I'm
let
sure
me
as
also-
well.
Just saying,
This-
I'm just saying, I'm a little uncomfortable with 8 years.
So
So-
would you be comfortable saying You
May-
might have-
Maybe I should
saying,
just
you know,
back
renewable.
and I should have said this earlier.
Starting with
I
a
think
year.
we'll
but
all
renewable.
agree the town has too many committees.
No, I would
No,
agree with that.
Okay,
So-
I would.
many people.
I mean, I
have-
wrote Envision Concord.
Envision
Our-
Concord
The
says-
first recommendation to the select board was get rid of 65 committees. You've got to condense them.
You can say that, but I have other philosophical reasons why I think committees are extremely important. So, and that, in terms of,
Right.
Okay.
but we won't go into that.
But as you said, you're still, I mean, again, in the report, as you mentioned, some of the things that you mentioned, the consultants you worked with said this isn't gonna work. With the drawdown, there was a lot of
There are
concern
some,
about
there
that.
is, but that could be.
The
looked at
divers,
again.
you said yourselves, were too expensive. So I want to see what's different to NRD on their own, just doing what they've been doing.
So you're
managing.
suggesting when NRD do it on their own and not have a committee?
No,
No,
that's
no,
not at all what we're saying.
not
Okay.
at all. I'm just saying, I'm not.
We're saying, let's do
comfortable-
this,
Yeah,
where you measure and evaluate against agreed upon metrics. That is different
yeah.
than what NRD has done.
Why are you,
Why do you need
why
an
does it
8-year?
matter if it's
It's not an
1
eight-year
year to be
thing.
continued?
Can I just say one more thing about the
Okay.
years? Okay, so when we were putting this together, you know that working on the pond to clean it up, things aren't gonna happen in a year. Maybe you can see some changes and whatever, so in our discussion with the task force, it was we were kind of butting heads as far as where's the people who wanted the dam removed saying, you know what, you're just kicking the can down the road
Mhm.
and you're not doing anything different. And we're like, well, I disagree, because we have a plan here where we are gonna have specific metrics that we wanna measure them by. And they're saying, okay, so you have to do it within 5 years. Okay, so when's the start date on that 5 years? Okay, we didn't know if we could start right away, if you guys would approve this,
Mhm.
if maybe, well, we wouldn't get started till next year. We didn't know, okay? So as a task force, we said, all right, let's just put an end date. By that particular date, if nothing has been done or whatever, you're done, we're gonna do something different. That doesn't mean we have to go to that date. If things aren't progressing, then it's time to say, okay, you know what, things aren't working out. But if things are working out,
Mhm.
then we continue and
And then we'll
go with the
renew
plan.
the committee for another year and. it
So it's a
will-
year, so you're saying
So-
it's a year by year basis then?
Well,
A 1-year term for the committee, renewable each year.
for as long as.
As long as
makes
if it's
sense.
working and it's making sense, then
So what about
go.
the pond management consultant? What's your comment about
well,
that?
I mean, I wonder initially, do we need a consultant, given that we have just spent a year, the task force? Now, I take your point. It was not from what you're describing, maybe it wasn't the most productive working relationship. I don't know how that will be necessarily different on a new subcommittee that's reconstituted with 5 to 7 members with a specific charge that may be different than what the Warner's Pond Task Force charge was, but let's assume that it's a different dynamic. I mean, you did spend a year looking at some of these, evaluating a lot of these options, getting technical input. It seems to me that if we were to quickly constitute a subcommittee, you could go back to some of that technical work and pretty quickly say, let's get ourselves organized, let's come up with plan 1. Remember, it's adaptive, so you're not locked into it, but let's come up with plan 1 based on what we've already looked at. Let's come up with metrics 1, 2, and 3 based on, I mean, I have your language here, generally acceptable metrics for physical,
Right.
you came up with a bunch. like
Those
dissolved
came
docs.
from the different reports, from the
Mhm.
2012 report,
Right.
from the 20, and those were from pond management companies.
And I think they are generally accepted measures of health. So dissolved oxygen seems like a good, nutrient levels, plant growth.
There are
Do you
other,
think
there-
those are not good metrics?
And I like
or-
the idea.
I
So
think they-
that's what I'm saying, like, do we need to hire a new consultant to tell us what we already know from your hard work? You could get going this month. Why do you want to
we,
wait?
we need somebody well, again, we need somebody to be actively with us in looking at these different techniques. We need a partnership with the pond, and there are companies that do this. That's one thing we're hoping for, an active pond management consulting firm. Well, we've had consulting firms, but we want somebody who's gonna be active with this new committee. That's one thing. Second, I rarely have heard unless it's a very limited, something like the 250th, where you're giving such a huge limit in terms of its time. I can see you saying,
Bill.
wait, excuse me, I can see you saying, we'll create the committee and then we'll just see where we are from year to year and see whether you should continue.
That's
But
what we're
the te-
saying.
No, you said it's for 1 year and it's renewable. I would say, let us, let us form a committee, let them form a committee. Appoint people for terms, and if you think it's time to dissolve the committee, you have the opportunity to dissolve the committee anytime you want. But why limit them?
I think
in
we're
their
talking
ability?
past each other. It sounds like we're all saying the same thing now.
Yeah.
Well, we're
So
close
that's
to it.
that's kind of
close
what we're
to it.
saying.
But
So-
I don't want to be, I don't want it to be people coming into the committee thinking they have to have everything done within that first
No,
year.
we're not
That's not what we're
suggesting that.
saying. That's not what we're saying.
What we're hearing from you, which you're apparently not saying, is that we can't touch this committee till 2032. So if you're not saying that,
No,
okay,
we're
so
not
if you're
saying
not saying that,
We're not
we're
saying
not
that.
saying that it shuts down in a year.
Yeah,
So I think we need to,
So why not,
I think we're in
why
agreement.
not appoint a committee?
Yeah.
But but without a shutdown, let's just wait and see how it works its way through. You can, and of course, you have the right to shut it down anytime you want.
so yeah, that's point one is the timing, and I think we're now coming to
Yeah.
a compromise there. And the second point on the consultant is, I'm not opposed to a consultant. I'd rather pay a consultant to start doing measurements and collecting data,
correct,
not paying a consultant to rehash what you guys already did
Correct.
for the last year.
okay.
So I think we could be saying the same thing again.
Mhm.
We're close, and I may be wrong, and I know we have a difference of opinion too. Again, I'm watching what they're doing out at Bear Hill Pond.
Yeah,
They have a consultant who works with them very, very closely, who suggests where they can try this, where they can try that, where they can literally say, this area is not gonna be good for dash, but it is good for hand pulling, or this area is. They really have worked out a whole elaborate system with, in partnership with that. In other places, this is good for herbicides. So I would love to have this committee have a partnership with someone who would do that with them.
I mean,
That would seem to me to be what you'd want.
So look into it.
yeah,
Well,
I
that's what
think,
we're asking. That's partly what we're asking for, is the ability to come before you and say, here's a proposal. We'd like you to hire a pond management consultant, at least that's what the committee's hoping it would do.
Yes.
so what I heard from the recommendation is you want us to form an independent body with its own budget that's gonna take a year just to decide who's gonna draft the terms of reference. So
No.
now it sounds like we're talking about something that's totally different, and I'm much more comfortable with that.
No one has ever thought it was being independent. In fact, the only person who did was actually one of our committee members who was
And within your recommendations.
independent.
Several
Yeah,
times,
we're-
yeah.
Interesting.
I didn't know it was there, to be honest. No one has ever thought of it being independent from NRC. No one ever considered that. Only thing they thought is that it's going to be, it was gonna work on the pond. I think that was it. I'm really surprised. As you can even see in the methodology we have put down, we're gonna go back to
No,
the
no,
NRC
yeah.
for approval. We're gonna
In
go
the
back to
PowerPoint,
NRC
it's
for
much
approval.
more clear that everything gets
Yeah, absolutely.
discussed and approved.
Jim, do you have any thoughts you wanna add?
Well, it strikes me that maybe what's missing here is sort of interim milestones, if you will. So let's say you're gonna do something for 5 years and you're gonna do all these things in 5 years. It's really hard for, I think, anyone to try to figure out if you're on the right track, if the committee's on the right track. So if you have milestones that say, well, we're gonna, it's gonna be effectively a 5-year committee, but it's gonna have milestones that within the first year, it's gonna accomplish this, and within the next year, 2 years after that, it's gonna accomplish that, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
What it allows then is for the commission to go back and say, if it's not meeting its milestones, we're gonna reconsider whether or not the committee
Mhm.
should exist, or if there's, be adaptive ourselves in a sense.
Yeah,
Because I think, it feels to me like, it's great to measure everything and it's great to have metrics. We don't even know what those are yet. We know that the pond is degrading. If suddenly it started to degrade quickly, and I don't know the science here, but let's just say it did, you'd wanna, jump in and figure out, is there something you have to do, including removing the dam or whatever. dredging, whatever it might be. So I guess I'm sort of in the idea of saying that I think language is important here, but I think that the ability to sort of have mileposts along the way, that we can evaluate how the thing is going and where it's going. And we can make decisions then about whether or not it makes sense to continue or dramatically change course, which is to say maybe stop the plan and do something else. I think would be helpful.
Now, Jim, there's some elements of that in there because it suggests that there'll be an interim report given at least every year to the NRC. And that would include things like oxygen levels, the attempt to remove invasives. All that would be done on a yearly basis. So people could see whether there's any progress being made. Now, again, it doesn't have to be 5, but we thought, give it a chance to work, that's all. But, it could be every year, as long as it isn't, cut off that, as we said, it would just, create a committee and let them report on a yearly basis. Oh, I know where the 5-year came up. Here, this is important for you to think about. There are strong feelings in the committee that we really look at things like dam removal again. And there was a strong feeling that we ought to have a major evaluation within the 5-year point. That's where we began that's where the 5 years came from. It was the idea that we were gonna make it so that we wouldn't just see incremental changes, but in the 5th year, that's a long enough time for us to have a really major evaluation and to reconsider the other options of dredging and a dam removal. That's where the 5 years came up.
And as you said in your report, there's also a lot of other external factors that we know are gonna come, like MCI development and Route 2. What we don't know about is how climate change is gonna affect us in the next few years. So, we all want to remain flexible depending on, I don't want to be in a position where if we say 5 years, 8 years, and then it's really obvious that we need to do something drastic.
Right.
But everybody says, oh, no, you said we had 5 years, and then there'd be all this uproar that the NRC said you could have 5 years, and I'm just not comfortable with.
I understand.
We actually say if there's anything major that comes up.
You do.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
things change over time,
that's
right?
where, that's why I talk about milestones, because I think that it's major minors in the eye of the beholder. Right, so we're gonna say, oh, there's some major thing that's come up, and you go, no, and then we're gonna have like a debate about it, so we have some way of saying. We have some way of putting the signposts in such a way that you've either achieved or haven't achieved a certain level within 3 years, let's say. Let's say it's, 1 year, we're gonna do the various things that we say we're gonna do in a year, and 3 years, you're gonna try to get the pond to a certain place. Whatever that oxygen levels, I don't know how we're gonna measure that, but whatever it is. And if we haven't, then that's gonna trigger a major reconsideration of whether or not we're still on the right path or we have to do something, which allows the committee to pull it and do whatever. Not just we're making progress, but we haven't hit those numbers, however, we haven't hit those numbers. Or if we've fallen, way short, then you have to try to, and you could put in metrics of, there is the planning for what's gonna happen with the prison land is now set, and we understand what that plan is. Well, that may be a time, regardless of mileposts, it may be just a milepost time to say, okay, if that plan is now set, then there ought to be a reevaluation as to whether or not we're still on the right track, if this makes sense, given where that plan is going. That's all I'm saying. So what I'm trying to do is avoid what I think sometimes happens in any committee, which is, as long as you're kind of showing some progress, you can come and say, well, this was okay, and this wasn't okay, and this worked, and this, what we're still trying. And it's very, very, very difficult in a town process or any kind of collegial process to say, oh, well, we just don't think it's come far enough. If we have something to measure it against, then, or places to look at it, then I think it's very much important. I don't think that we should spend, I think everyone here agrees that we shouldn't spend all this effort for the first year and then just on some whim, stop it. You know, I mean, that's not the point either. So it's really just you know, so I think those metrics help on the other side as well, because if you're achieving what you said you're gonna achieve, then it's like, well, how can you stop us now? We've been blasting forward.
And you understand too, I'm sure, this will never, if in fact you were to approve and this was to go forward, it'll be a never ending process. Cause it's like the river. We're always gonna have invasives. We're always gonna be battling against invasives. And then there's the other value of the pond, which is something that we have to be considerate of, and that is the recreational value.
Yeah, I was gonna,
Right.
And the community value.
Yeah.
And so those are elements that are significant for us
no,
too.
absolutely. So I see in your report, you say that, the committee would work on, improvements to the boat launch, all the things that the NRD have been proposing and that there is budget for. So you may want to think, that 250,000 that you've got, well, we've got to confirm, but we're pretty sure we have that for restoration. Do you really want to use it for a pond consultant, or do you want to put it into improving that area immediately? That sort of thing.
Well, we've already thought about that, not to get into the weeds on this, but we figured it'll be about, our estimate was 50 to 75,000 for the improvement of the Commonwealth Avenue boat launch area. And we thought maybe around $50,000 a year for the first year anyway, for a pond consultant. Now, that may
Okay.
be wrong, but that's the numbers I had gotten from Bear Hill. That may not be true for us, who knows? But that was the idea.
And I agree that somebody from the Recreation Committee should be.
Either on it or someone who is a liaison.
Yeah,
whether-
yeah, somebody who's linked to
Linked to-
thinking about
yeah.
Redwood.
Because Giroux is so closely tied into.
Correct. So, I mean, we thought about those elements,
Mhm.
about how to make that so.
Mhm. Okay, great.
So I just don't want it to be to set it up to not work and to set it, so to not presume that there will be a lot of progress in the first year, because we have a lot of.
No,
Yeah,
I
okay.
assume there won't be progress in the
Yeah,
first year,
yeah.
and that's not at all why I'm suggesting that
Yeah.
it's, 1 year renewable. It's more, and I'll be blunt, my feeling is that this is what we've been doing for 20 years,
Mhm.
and it's fine if we want to do it for another 8 years as a town, if that's the decision we want to make, we can do that. I don't want to do it for another 8 years without having data. Because I feel like if we can show what we have, and I'm very curious, and you probably went through this as part of the task force, like, there probably were periodic measurements of some
There
of
is.
these parameters.
Yeah.
And so I'd be curious as to what the trend has been, but I definitely would be uncomfortable moving forward with a additional adaptive management approach if it wasn't accompanied with routine, regular data
Yeah.
that's going to establish a trend. And 5 years, 8 years, 10 years from now, people will have to be weighing the either hopefully improving health of the
Mhm.
pond against its, hopefully improving recreational value, or lack thereof.
Mhm.
Correct. I was gonna say, I don't want to get too philosophical about it.
Yeah.
But even if eutrophication continues, that's
Yeah.
also nature's own movements in the pond,
Well,
and so we
Yeah,
have
but
to.
it's
a big
nature's
role
own
is
movement
To diversity.
with a
right?
man-made
And
I mean,
it does and it doesn't. I mean, in a certain sense, if it becomes more of a marsh, there's an interesting development about that too. One
Right.
could argue that's more diverse. I mean, one could argue that. So I just want to say, I don't see any downside in the time issue with this, but,
well, I think if we had physical measurements of dissolved oxygen over the last 20 years, that would show you the downside of just sitting in.
it would show you one portion.
Also, that
Yeah.
part of having a committee focused on Warner's Pond is that
Great.
it's consistent, it's being measured,
Mhm.
there's people all over it. Do you know what I mean?
That's why I'm supporting it.
The
with-
friends, I mean, you
with-
have a Friends of Warner's Pond
Yes.
interested, I mean,
Yes.
why? Did you have the discussion about,
What?
what, could you just use that as your, I mean, I'm just interested if you had a thought of it all coming together.
What do you mean? Like having the Friends of Warner's Pond run it? What, I'm not,
Well, I
unclear.
mean, you're now gonna have two committees focused on Warner's Pond.
So the reason behind Friends of Warner's Pond was because the proposal was for dam removal. Okay,
NRC's
the alternatives
proposal.
analysis
So
said, hey, the dam removal, that's where we're gonna go, and the Friends of Warner's Pond came together because they were like, wait a minute, you've been talking about, dredging the pond for years, and now you've done this because we got a bid that was
I
extraordinarily.
think your question is, what do they gain by being a subcommittee of NRC? And I think the answer is access to CPC funds, access to
Yeah, no,
NRD staff.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I never been to
Applications for-
Warner's Pond, Friends of Warner's Pond Committee, so I don't know. what
Yeah, I
that
mean,
is.
but for sure, they will help, I mean, and they wanna be involved and all.
Well, that's your volunteers, right? 'Cause I like,
Might you make
I like the
Correct.
idea of putting together the
course,
volunteers.
absolutely.
You've got your
Correct.
pet,
Yeah.
better volunteers, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any
What
other
else?
comments from Gary or Jim?
I guess I'm still trying to, really understand, based on everything you know right now, what does success look like? I mean, in 5 years, what does success actually look like?
I would say significant reduction in the amount of underwater invasives, like the milfoil and what's the other stuff, the fanwort, especially in the area between, not all over the pond, that was never thought of in, at least not in the original dredging, but in the area near Scout Island over to Commonwealth Avenue, that whole area in there, that would be a significant piece.
And significant means what?
It'd be clear, it'd be, among other things, clearly, boat and kayak and canoe through there without the thickness of the weeds that's presently there. That would be a major change,
Yes.
for me. Maybe a slight reduction in the water lilies, but I'm not so concerned about the water lilies. I mean, that's, so that would be probably the single largest thing I would see, going on. Yeah,
Getting rid of a lot of the invasives.
a lot of the underwater invasives for me.
And is there, we're just assuming that would then take care of the degradation effect? I mean, right? I mean,
Well, there will always be that issue of them returning, because that's just the nature of they're in the river as well. So they'll be coming through, so we'll have to keep an ongoing plan to make sure that we're always addressing them.
I mean, I'm kind of with Gary on the issue of, what's dissolved oxygen, what's this, what's that? I mean, you could take all the invasives off and still have dissolved oxygen. Have a problem, because you don't know why, so I mean, it's sort of the hand, I think that's why I'm trying to find this sort of hand thing that says, we're gonna attack this issue. And we're gonna measure our success based on a combination of how much have we reduced invasives, and where are a couple of important metrics, which I'll let somebody smarter than me figure out what those metrics are. And are those coming down? And if in sort of 2 years, 2.5 years, I don't know, whatever, we haven't gotten there, then is that a time that there's gotta be a real look back as to whether we're on the right path, or we have to change, or something else has to be done. That's what I'm.
Yeah, I mean, the
trying-
committee, the task force has
Making
clearly
this up, 'cause I
decided
don't
you've
have
only
that.
just made your
I'm
75%.
not scrolling text here.
Saying just
This
to
is
make
September
75 is
17th.
significant, that's a large.
It's like a
percentage.
carpet,
That's
it's
not,
like
that's
a-
like.
But that was your
saying-
goal, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but we made the goal, and I
Yep.
wanna say that 75% is a significant number of people. I mean, you might say, if you said it was just a bare majority, that would be one thing, but it didn't. It made it to the 75% mark in this.
And I think
What's the
the other,
75% mark?
We wanted to have 75% of the people on the committee, either supporting or
Yeah,
relatively
I
supporting.
thought I was talking about the.
No.
I don't know about dissolved oxygen itself. I don't know if that's the issue, because I mean, the dissolved oxygen above in the stream isn't particularly great either as it comes
Right.
down.
right,
So we have to see if that's the issue.
It's just one measure.
I know, exactly.
Level of plant growth is another measure.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And again, the ability for the recreational use of that area,
Yeah.
which is
that's
another
important.
thing.
yeah, I do think that one of
that's
the.
not recreational.
That's one part.
That's,
Right.
yeah, and I think the important part of this, like I said, I was just out
That's a
in,
bigger part, yeah.
I was just out in the weekend of 4th of July weekend,
Mhm.
okay, and we had kayaks and we were kayaking around and we went down until we reached a beaver dam and we couldn't go any farther. So we came back. And is it difficult to paddle because of the weeds? Yes, it is. But I think we also have to look at this and say, we want to do whatever we can to
Mhm.
make sure that we can clean up this pond, to make it more enjoyable. It is seriously an amazing resource that it's right borders Giroux Park. That is something that we've spent, what, $2 or $3 million on already. And, you know, and to have these things work together, there is a definite, you know, benefit to
Yeah.
cleaning up this pond.
Of course, so that's why we're having this whole
Yeah,
discussion.
right,
Yeah.
right. Right.
And that's what, I think it's important to have metrics around plant growth and dissolved oxygen. I think
Yes.
it's also important to have some metrics that are measured on a regular basis on recreational activity.
Right.
How many kayakers are there on Saturday? If
Mhm.
that number declines over 5 years, because it's just becomes paddleable,
Right.
to me, that's an important thing. Like, are we getting the recreational amenity that,
But the other part of that is access as well.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah,
And so
that'll
the
be
access,
exactly the
the
point.
access is the recreation department is working on putting in or analyzing, you know, some sort of.
And that's part of
fishing
your
pier,
adaptive
whatever.
management strategy. If
Correct.
you make an adaptation like increase access,
Correct.
and that shows your recreation metric going up, that shows success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you do community pools and it shows, plant growth going down, that shows success.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
And that's the main thing that I want, is to have data to say whether things are going in the right direction or not.
Mhm.
And I think that's what we're saying too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so we're agreeing to an NRC subcommittee. Um, I know you've put a draft together. I think we'll need a bit of time to look at that and come up with, I think I propose a green card process for who wants to be part of it on the subcommittee.
Do that. My recommendation would be, yeah, you can do that, and we should, I think, that makes sense. But frankly, my recommendation would be that, you choose someone to be chair, and my recommendation frankly, you choose, Chris. And so I'm just gonna tell you flat out, if you're gonna do it, she's the most involved, she's engaged. And let her be part of the process in which you and who others are gonna form a committee. Let them form the committee based on that.
Well, if we're gonna form a subcommittee, we should draft a chart, right? So
Yeah,
that's the first thing, and the chart
Yeah.
would say what the membership is,
Right,
and we'll
absolutely,
get
and
into
in
the
fact, we
details.
actually have built in a mission statement for you. If you wanted to use it, you could change it, but essentially, it's very clear, but clearly what you want, I think, in this. And then you form it, and that then you go through them and find who else you wanna have join.
Mhm.
And move from there. So, yeah.
Okay. We'll get on with it.
All right.
Okay,
Public.
yes, I'd like to open up for any public comments.
Anna Felbrink, 343 Commonwealth Avenue. I have an issue with the fact that people keep saying we've been doing this pond management for 20 years. I don't think we've been doing it well or efficiently. And part of the reason I say that is because we heard about some of the other ways that pesticides or herbicides can be applied. We now understand that you can't hydro rake certain things, we understand that. But in our own experience, just in the past 3 years that we've been pulling water chestnuts, the Friends of Warner's Pond, the first year we pulled 2 huge trailers of water chestnuts on 2 different poles. The second year we pulled 2 slightly smaller full trailers. This year, we couldn't even fill the bottom of the trailer. So it's been profoundly effective.
Did you
think it
do it in
was-
September?
Well, I think it was early, actually.
Okay.
I think
This
this
would have
year's
filled
poll was
several
early.
trailers, but-
This year we did it a little earlier because last year we were told it was too late the first pull. So. I don't
So
know.
we're actually doing it right now,
Yeah.
and I had sent you an email, I don't know if you've seen it, but there are people who want to
Mhm.
participate from the Friends and the Cruise annual efforts, that's great. I think the more people out there, the more
Right.
effective it is.
We had a big poll a couple weekends ago. And we've been out there since, and we'll get a few, but there's not much.
Great, okay,
So things can work.
thank you. Any other comments, Vicky?
Yeah, Vicky Alani, Commonwealth Avenue. I just wanted to add to the 1 year cycle. I think what's important about the way the 5 year, whatever the number is, that's important is a commitment from the people who are gonna be on this committee. That they're not saying, I'm gonna do this in a year, and then whoever the chair is, then has to put together another group and recommit. So I say,
Yeah.
oh, are you ready for another year? Are you ready for another year? Are you ready for another year? That it just becomes something that's more locked in and people can focus. I can say, I'm 5 year, you're a 4 year, you're a
Yeah.
3 year. And even if it gets disbanded in the meantime, there's some commitment from
Mhm.
people that doesn't come up every year for, it's hard to put together committees and.
Yeah, no,
those
that
kind
makes
of
sense,
things.
Vicky, thank
And
you.
so and also for even the pond consultant, I'm guessing by the time this committee is put together
Mhm.
and we write an RFP and it gets approved, they can't even start their work until next summer, which is when
Mhm.
probably the time that they wanna put together their plan. And so that first year, it goes by before lickety split. We didn't even know from trying to get the symmetry out there, right? It took us,
We'll,
months to.
we'll
do
think
that.
up some language to
So,
make it
yeah, I
clear.
think that would be,
Yeah.
that's the reason I'm concerned about
Yeah.
that little timeline blip. Yes. Thank you.
Yes,
Hi, Jeff Collins, 55 Highland Street. I was a member of the task force and I really enjoyed through the process getting Bill, Chris, Vicky better. But we did end up with different conclusions on the process. And I'm also happy that Anna's daughter and my daughter are good friends, and I'm sorry that we've been on opposite ends there. I have different perspectives on the future of Warner's Pond, but and I was sort of held the oars seat on the chair of the board of oars. I bring perspective of a 25-year career at Mass Audubon, supervising a large team of ecologists and ornithologists, and ultimately, when I left Mass Audubon last year, I was senior director of conservation science there. I'm very disappointed with the final recommendation. I voted against the recommendation. I hope you all take a close look, I think, at the final appendix where there's some differing opinions shared based on the information we all heard. I think the proposed management plans would be a kick the can down the road effort. I think they have a very low chance of any success. One of the slides mentioned our 2012 watershed management plan. That plan goes through exhaustively a full range of efforts and dismisses them all as very unlikely to succeed. I think Bear Hill Pond is not a good analog for this site for various reasons, but chiefly because Warner's Pond sits at the bottom of a 47 square mile water that brings in all that sediment, all that nutrient accumulated for over a century and is leading to these issues. So the management plan will not address these underlying issues. The charge of the task force was to make recommendations to improve the ecological and recreational capacity conditions of the pond. I don't think a recurring management plan will do that in any cost-effective or feasible manner. It's been said, what's the cost? Let's give it a shot. Let's try it. I think the cost is inflation. If we do pursue another option in the future, I think there's opportunity cost. The bond bill that Gilly mentioned at the outset, I was listening in on Zoom, includes $93 million to Division of Ecological Restoration for dam removal and culvert replacement, specifically for municipally owned infrastructure. Who knows how long that will last, so we don't want to miss those opportunities. The dam and dredging subcommittees, the whole task force broke into subcommittees. Subcommittees did detailed work, working with some budget from NRC to hire consultants to get cost estimates of dam removal, 30% design plans for dredging to assess where the dredge material could go, doing detailed study. I don't feel that this proposal offers any detail. It says, let's hire a consultant. Again, we already did that, and I think we have the answers for what's possible. I think that, the pond and the dam are relics of the light industrial history of West Concord. We're in a different era now. The NRC has an opportunity to improve the environment. You do heroic work, holding back the tides, chipping away at our environment here in Concord. we have an opportunity to make a dramatic improvement for now and for future generations. I think the conversation, if you approve and pursue this, of having specific metrics is spot on. I proposed that language in the final recommendation. I think we need not only to say, do we have a trend here, but are we improving ecological and recreational conditions of the pond in a specific timeline? And if not, please go back and look at the work we did, and please make some recommendation. I urge you to make some recommendation now to say, you know, look, future NRC, look at the work that was done by that task force. Let's not pick up that can in 5 years, say, geez, we need another task force. What are our options? What we've done. And I would argue that restoration best achieves the multiple goals that we set out for a very cost-effective approach from the county. So if you pursue this path and we treat it as an experiment, I suggested that it be 5 years solid. Bill described it, we're going back and forth on time, because the feasibility, the funding, the management, that's all part of whether or not this is possible. We can't take 4 years to get a consultant's report and then decide we don't like it and get another one and then say, well, we haven't even started yet. That's part of deciding whether or not recurring management is feasible and fundable. So I've got a lot of thoughts on this. We spent a lot of time on it. Again, I really enjoy getting to know my neighbors better. I think in the future, restoration of Neshoba Brook in the 47 square mile watershed, not only to improve the conditions of Lawrence Pond, but to provide a pathway for anadromous fish that will reach us when Talbot Mills Dam comes down, will be a legacy contribution that we can all make.
Thank you. Yes,
Connie, and then we've got 2 people online and we've had their hands up from the line.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
But let's finish in the room then, okay.
Connie Levine, 149 Stowe Street. I don't live near the pond. I have no vested interest in the pond. I think it's well worth, improving it. And these people are on the money because this guy lost, okay? You lost. So you're still, you're gonna have to wait another 5 years and try to get rid of the pond. It's not happening. The town overwhelmingly didn't want that to happen. So, everybody said, we want people working on the pond to make it better. So you sit here and waste time talking about that.
Excuse me, but please be respectful.
That's one of my problems.
Yeah, address
But here's the
us.
thing I gotta tell you guys, and I wanna know how many of you people here are for the pond? Because I know Delia was for getting rid of the pond. Are you guys all getting on that side? Because if so, you're conflicted and you're not giving these people a chance. They've never lowered that dam to treat the invasives. That's what they're talking about. Ever since that thing's been put up, that's an obvious thing. It would be great to try that and see what happens.
It's not,
You try to quash everything. There's something not right about that.
We have just
I-
agreed.
Reports. Nothing has been done with these over the 20 years. So when you say you've been doing all this stuff the last 20 years, you paid 45,000 for one of these. You didn't do.
Okay,
anything.
excuse me, I'm sorry, that is enough.
No, it isn't.
We have
It
just,
isn't enough.
if
because
we
you
have
guys
just
have to
agreed.
answer to the townspeople. You can't just quash stuff here. We're supposed to be
We're-
having,
We've just
We just
agreed.
agreed to go forward with this.
Yeah.
but you're not, you're trying to kill what they're doing.
Excuse me, we
But
just
you're not-
agreed to go forward with this.
You're
Ma'am,
you're not
okay.
cooperating.
You really think so,
You're
okay?
giving them a hard time. That's not cooperating with them.
Oh,
You're giving
okay.
them a hard time.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
not giving us a hard time?
I'm
Come on.
giving you a hard time because you deserve it and no one else will give it to you. I'm not-
Excuse me, ma'am. I've been on this committee like 2 months, right?
Yeah.
I'm a townsperson. I used to use the
I've
pond
lived
with
here
my
for
kids.
50 years.
I've lived here for 40 years. I used to use this pond with my kids.
Yeah.
I love this pond.
I grew up in West Palm,
But,
so I know a
but
lot.
excuse me.
Yeah.
You are misinterpreting what we are saying.
No, I'm not. I'm
Yeah,
not.
well,
I
okay.
listened to it.
Then,
You know what?
Fine.
Excuse me,
Fine.
since you're trying to defend us, why don't we just stop, okay?
Yeah.
Help. Oh, no, no,
not
excuse
helping
me,
your cause.
excuse me, no, please don't. You're not helping. You're not helping. You're not.
These people
Sit.
were.
Yeah, we're gonna move on. I'm sorry.
We're gonna move on,
You've
because
had
you're not
enough.
helping us, so you have to stop. Stop. Stop.
We're supposed to
Stop.
do it.
Okay.
Stop.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, there's two more.
Let's
More
go to
people.
online then. Okay, thank you.
Alyssa had her hand up first and then Malcolm.
Alyssa, please.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate most of the points that Jeff made, but one of the things that really confuses me the most is, I love data and I'm a data geek and I think the idea of collecting data is good, but the point of collecting data is to use it to do something. And I don't see that we're talking about implementing any new methodologies here, because you went through the methodologies and we said that there weren't any methodologies that we haven't already tried that would be effective. So I'm not even sure what the point of collecting this data is, unless we're just seeing the natural attenuation of what will go on at the pond. When you talk about water quality data, there's not too many parameters that really of interest. We're talking about temperature and dissolved oxygen. We know what it's like pretty much now, and it's not going to change unless there's substantial changes. And there aren't any methodologies that you're talking about instituting that are new, that are different, or even that we're going to do. So I'm not even sure what the point of collecting this data is, except to study how a pond naturally degrades over time. So I kind of like the idea of collecting data only just because I'm curious, but I don't really understand the point of it at all. And there's been a lot of talk about hiring a pond consultant, and I just want to point out that we've had a very good pond consultant working for the town for a very long time. So it's not that we need a new consultant to come in and tell us things, because they're going to tell us the same thing that our pond consultant has been telling us. We've had good technical expertise. I'm not sure how much more technical expertise we need to tell us what to measure. I think every people on the committee seem to have a very clear idea of what to measure. We could maybe use some help in measuring those parameters, although it's a lot of money, and the town has got a very tight budget at the moment. So I'm just not sure what the point of spending all this money to study things for, if it's just going to show us the pond degrading. So that's my
Thank you, Alyssa.
point.
Okay. And we'll now move to, I believe Malcolm's got his hand up. Oh, we can't hear you, Malcolm, you're on mute.
No. Okay, sorry.
There you go.
I've got mute off at last. Sorry. Yeah, I was also on the task force. And I was a member at large. So in essence, I was representing the entire town of Concord, not any specific perspective. And I want to start off just by saying that the two co-chairs are misrepresenting the dynamics in the task force. There were 3 groups performed to explore and propose, firstly, taking no action, which morphed into this proposal. Secondly, dredging the pond, and thirdly, dam removal. Each group did their job thoroughly and came to their conclusions, and then defended those conclusions to the committee. Bill's characterization of a group of dam removal zealots disrupting the committee is wholly inaccurate, and that is not represented in the record. And I would hope that the commission members might just take some time to look at the detailed proposals from both the dredging subcommittee and the dam removal subcommittees, because there is a lot of excellent information in those, none of which is contained in this proposal. Secondly, the task force was deeply divided on this recommendation, and one or more members did not think this option was best. Bill just referenced that some members saw this as essentially pushing the decision-making down the road, and at least gave the impression that that was some sort of sour grapes. That is not true, and I would like to ask the NRC to give this position serious consideration in light of the environmental, sustainability, financial, and recreational issues that the pond faces. Thirdly, it's been said by members of the committee, there is nothing in this proposal that was not in the 2012 management plan. And those actions have been either tried and failed or deemed to be impractical, despite what members of the public may feel or say. And these come from both a technical perspective and a regulatory perspective. And I think this proposal, by asking to measure and answer questions, ignores and diminishes the multiple inputs that were received from truly recognized experts in multiple disciplines. Fourthly, Jeff alluded to this.
Malcolm, you're gonna have to.
This is
to
my
wind
last
up.
one.
This is your last point, good, thank you.
Yep. The frequent references to Bear Hill Pond and their process is misguided and inappropriate. The comparison is just not valid. It's essentially comparing apples to oranges, and I would ask that the Commission look very carefully at what has happened in Bear Hill Pond and its comparability, and if necessary, obtain some unbiased external advice on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any other public comments?
I don't see any other hands up.
Okay, so in that case, I adjourn this meeting.